All right, we're jumping into a really profound text today. It asks this huge question. What are the absolute bare minimum rules that let an idea or an identity or even a whole society hang together without just falling apart? And let me tell you, the answer it gives is probably not what you're thinking. Let's get into it. So let's just start right there. What is the glue? What gives any idea its shape, its persistence? We usually think it's about having all the right parts, a solid foundation. But this framework argues that the real secret is, well, it's the exact opposite of that. And to get to that really surprising answer, we have to do something radical first. We have to completely let go of our most basic assumption about the world, the idea that it's just made of things. So, according to this theory, nothing really exists on its own. A rock isn't a rock in some absolute sense. It's only a rock when it's seen through a specific lens, the context of a person looking at it, or a geologist measuring it, or even just the laws of physics acting on it. So the real building block of our world, this theory says, isn't the object. It's the perspective that defines it in the first place. This means the world isn't some collection of items sitting in a big box. No, it's a huge, tangled web of points of view, of relationships, which leads to a pretty big question, right? If everything is just a perspective, what stops the entire system from just dissolving into absolute chaos? So what's the one rule that keeps this whole web from collapsing? It's this idea, right here. The source calls it the condition of coherence. It's actually super simple. It just means that whether I'm looking at a tree from way across the street or I'm right up close, it has to stay a tree. This basic consistency, that's the bedrock. It's what allows us to even have a shared reality at all. Okay, so we've got a stable world that's built from perspectives, but what gives it life? What makes it move and grow and change? This is where the theory makes its most mind-bending claim. The engine that drives existence, it isn't perfection. It's a flaw. Think about it for a second. A system that has answered every single question, filled in every hole, resolved every contradiction, well, it has nowhere left to go. It becomes totally static, like a crystal. It's perfect, sure, but it's also symbolically dead. For there to be life, for there to be movement, for there to be time itself, you need an opening. And this opening, it has a name. The source calls it the generative singularity. Now, this isn't a mistake. It's not something that needs to be patched or fixed. It's a required feature. Every single living system of meaning, whether it's a tiny thought or an entire civilization, is actually built around a central, unfillable void. And this is where the idea gets incredibly powerful. This lack isn't just an empty space. It's an active force. It creates a kind of geometric tension. You can think of it like the way gravity warps space-time and forces planets into orbit. This fundamental flaw is the engine that literally compels a system to move, to evolve, and to tell a story across time, all in a constant effort to map the edges of that central hole. So having this unfillable hole at the center of everything, it forces the system to play by a whole new set of rules, a new kind of logic. In classical logic, everything is simple. A statement is either true or false. It's black or white. But in the internal logic of a living system, there's a third option, this zone of nuance. This is the space where an idea isn't proven, but it isn't disproven either. It's still up for grabs. And this isn't a bug in the system. It's the territory where all new ideas, all learning, and all growth has to happen. So, if every system has this inescapable flaw baked right into its core, how does it survive? How does it not just tear itself apart? Well, the source argues that it has to perform a constant four-step cycle, a kind of dance, just to manage its own incompleteness. And this dance has 4 key steps. First, an idea emerges. What if? Then the system tries to maintain it, to turn that new possibility into a stable belief, a habit. After that, it tries to propagate it, to make that belief a universal rule that explains everything. But that rule will always eventually crash into the system's own unfixable flaw. It confronts the real. And it's from that very crash that a new what if is born, and the whole cycle starts all over again. And here you can see how this abstract cycle translates into something that is deeply, deeply human. That first gesture, emerge, that's our what if moment. Maintain, that's our memory, the habits we build up. Propagate, that's our logic, our relentless drive to make it all make sense. And that last step, confronting the real, well, that's our inevitable run-in with the unsolvable problem, the trauma.
the one thing that just doesn't fit the narrative. This cycle, it's the very rhythm of our thoughts.
Now, I know this all might seem incredibly abstract, but here is where this whole theory brings it right back home. These huge cosmic principles, they aren't just for describing galaxies or philosophies. They're for describing you.
The big takeaway here is that your sense of I, your very identity, it isn't a thing that you have. It's an action that you are constantly performing. You are the continuous, dynamic process of weaving a coherent world of meaning around your own unique, personal incompleteness. You're not the tapestry. You're the knot being tied to manage your own central mystery.
I mean, just pause on that for a second. Your ego, yourself, it's not some solid monument. It's the active, courageous tension that you maintain every moment to keep your personal world from ripping apart at the seams where the unknown lives. It's just a profound way to think about what it even means to be a person. But holding all this tension by yourself, it's exhausting. It takes a ton of energy. So what happens when you truly connect with someone else? The source argues it's not as simple as just doubling your strength. It actually changes the entire geometry of the problem. And this is the theory's definition of love or any deep connection. Get this, it's not about finding your twin or someone who shares all your exact same beliefs. It's about finding someone whose fundamental whole is the geometric mirror image of yours. Where you have tension, they have torsion. Your two unique incompletenesses lock together, and they create a shared structure that's immensely more stable and requires way less energy to maintain than trying to go it alone. So we're going to end where we began, but with a new spin. If your identity is really the shape that you build around your own central void, then maybe the most important question isn't who are you? Maybe it's this. What is the impossible question that your life, your thoughts, and everything you do are a beautiful, ongoing attempt to answer?